Welcome to Media Types with me, Robert Shepherd. I'm delighted to welcome Steve Lazarus, founder of Lazarus Consulting, a boutique corporate finance advisory firm specializing in mergers and acquisitions, capital raising, and strategic corporate development for businesses in the technology, media, and retail sectors. He's here to impart his knowledge and share some top tips. Hello, Steve, and welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you to have me.
Pleasure. I was thinking back to how we first got in contact, and it was 20 years ago. So 2006, I was a cub reporter at Broadcast magazine, and you called me up and were very polite and said, "Hi, I'm Steve Lazarus and I run this company and blah, blah, blah. If you ever need any comments." Had you just started the consultancy then? Because if memory serves, you were in the legal field beforehand, weren't you?
That's right. So I've had a few different sort of chunks of career. Started off as a lawyer, big law firm, moved into in-house legal in media, Warner Music, ITV, and then moved into commercial roles where I was at Celador, commercial director. And then in 2005, you're absolutely right, launched version 1 of Lazarus Consulting.
Brilliant. So before we get into the state of the industry and what you're up to at the moment, can you give us an idea of some of the big deals you've worked on in the past?
Gosh, at Lazarus Consulting?
Yeah, or even as a lawyer, just so we know your pedigree.
I was, for about 7 years, I was doing business and corporate development deals in tech. So in those years, there were big multi-million value deals with the likes of Google, eBay, Amazon. So those were really interesting, very high value, delivering lots of dollars for American-owned businesses. Before that, it was, look, my whole career's been deals. Even as a lawyer, I was doing deals for artists involving like Seal and Cher and all that kind of stuff. Then I moved into, as a commercial at Celador, I was doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where every deal, frankly, where you were doing videos or book deals or whatever, generated lots and lots of, high value for shareholders. It's been very broad, but I think the one theme in my career is I've just been doing deals the whole time, even as a lawyer, as a commercial. And of course, at Lazarus Consulting, I continue in that thread of, it's got consulting in the name, but it's a corporate finance house. That's what we call it, boutique corporate finance offering, where all our clients need and want a transaction. And that's what we're hired to do, deliver on a deal. And we've had some really interesting experiences and successes, frankly.
You've had to navigate some very tricky times, though, in that space, because you've had COVID, you had the crash in 2008-9. The economy at the moment's not in a great state. You've got unemployment going up, and because of national insurance going up and the minimum wage going up, companies have had to let people go. Depending on what you read in the film and TV sector, there's something like 69% of people out of work. Companies are struggling. Yet the M&A space seems to be doing all right because companies are still buying other companies. So how does that work?
Yeah, look, I think it's all about positioning and what you focus on. So, there's one part of the answer to that question is what's the market like? Yeah. And the other part is what do we focus on? So we've always focused on, and that's what's consulting, the sort of the lower end of the market. Some people call it sort of lower mid-market. So those deals are slightly smaller. Let's say sub 50 million. It depends what you mean by small, but really it's at the level where a business might be struggling and they need that next step up with extra help, either capital or a sale, or it just might be the right time to enter the market. And sometimes you can be very busy, even though the actual wider market is struggling. As long as your focus as a business, as a corporate finance house, is niche and is focused, you can be really busy. So I think the broader market is, yes, sometimes there are times when, of course, like post-Brexit, it was a terrible time to be doing deals. But actually, there are a lot of businesses that really needed a lot of help. They're the ones, even really good businesses couldn't find funding. So those kind of times actually are when times get tough in business, that's actually when businesses need external advisors like us more. Yeah. So it's that weird balance between sometimes the sector's doing really well and you might be needed less, but actually when there's difficult transactions, difficult times like post-COVID, they need us more.
Yeah. I can't believe I forgot to mention Brexit in that.
Yes. That was another difficult period as well.
Just a bit, wasn't it? Well, it's still
uncertainty is
ongoing,
really
isn't it?
Annoying.
Yeah.
I think that labeling those periods, it's about uncertainty. People don't know whether they should support their existing portfolio businesses, whether they should make new investments, whether they should expand into new territories. That uncertainty is not helpful.
Yeah. What would be interesting to know is, just focusing a bit more on film and TV to begin with, what makes a company look attractive and unattractive to potential buyers? Because I remember when I started out at broadcast, there was no such thing as a super indie. You just had lots of independents, and you had bigger ones too, but they didn't have huge umbrellas of different with loads of other companies underneath. And then the likes of Shed and Shine came along, bought up all these companies, the rise of the super indie, and they were just picking these companies because they had good assets, good programming, etc. Then it became all about formats. So buying companies that had formats that were returnable, you could sell them overseas, they were easily produced, etc. What are they looking for now?
Yeah, good question. Look, I think you're right. Transactions have changed in media and entertainment over the years, particularly in the broadcast sector. When a business is, you can either grow your business internally by hiring amazing staff and growing, or you can acquire businesses by growth. I think all strong businesses are doing both, investing in their current talent and looking for bolt-on acquisition. So that's continuing. But I think now it's a bit more complicated. I think you're right. Were originally focused on maybe a format or maybe some individuals. Now it's a bit more nuanced. Yes, acquirers of smaller businesses are absolutely looking for smaller businesses that are doing well with good formats. But also, there's also this buying of audiences, buying of brands that's entered the fray now. So it's a bit more complicated. The whole media landscape, as you know, has changed.
Yeah.
There's fragmentation. It's online as well as on demand, on traditional broadcast. You've just got to be more fluid about how you're growing your business. And therefore, you have to be masters of not just traditional, TV shows, but also has to be online. And when you add that all together, sometimes you might be buying a brand, you might be buying a team, you might be buying an audience, you might be buying distribution.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated. And so people have to be smart about how they grow by, is it organic? Is it acquisition? You can see, there are some very large distribution, very large deals that have happened over the last sort of 12 months.
Yeah.
Really industry changing deals with Paramount and Disney and all those. I think the core fundamentals are, businesses are buying, of course, IP, shows, formats, but they're also buying teams and distribution and territories.
Yeah. I remember it used to be the case that founders would have their company, they'd work for a number of years and then decide at the age of, 55, 60, they've had enough, they sell up and go. Nowadays, it seems that people launch companies and sell them quite quickly. Is that a new trend? Like, for example, look at Ben Affleck. He created that AI company, didn't he? And he sold it to Netflix after, I think it was 4 years. I mean, no, he might not be a typical example because he's a multimillionaire actor, but it is happening, I see, in lots of different spaces.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a different mindset. I think it's partly to do with what people think about their job.
Yeah.
It used to be you'd get a job, and if you were happy, you might stay for quite a long time. Whereas now there's a lot more fluidity, a lot more choice, and there's a lot more independent businesses. And so I think that plays into it. Therefore, a job's not for life anymore. It's just for serving a purpose. And sometimes those people look for, well, what is the purpose? Why am I working? And it could be they've got one eye on an exit.
Yeah.
And therefore they just want to build something that they can sell and move on, and build it again and sell and move on. And that's a certain entrepreneur. Or other people are just like, I'm better running my own teams than rather than being part of a team. So I think there's a lot of factors that play into that. But there is now a really clear path across all sectors for launching something, growing it, and then exiting. And I think when we're talking about exits, good businesses will sell. Doesn't matter what sector they're in. A good, strong business will sell because people will appreciate, that it is a good business.
Yeah. In your experience, what would you say were the most common mistakes founders made when preparing for fundraising, investment, and eventual exit?
Yeah, lots of mistakes are made, I would say. To prepare for, it's actually quite a difficult question. To prepare for a successful outcome in an exit scenario, you really need to have lots of options. And therefore, you need to build a business that is attractive to more than one type of business. So that's one part of the answer. You need optionality to really maximize the value for your business on an exit. So I think perhaps founders might focus more on one aspect. They might think about valuation, but actually a deal doesn't fail because of we haven't hit that valuation. Buyers have lots of choice and they have lots of boxes to tick. And actually, when we take on sale mandates, we think of ourselves as a buyer. We put on a little buyer hat and we think, right, what would a buyer appreciate? And it's lots of different things. It's a strong management team. It could be IP. It could be distribution. It could be, lots of clients, not reliance on a small number. So there's lots of factors. It could be the product, could be the tech, it could be anything. So really, you need to really quite prepare your business, of course, but also try and build as strong business as possible, not just focusing on one little aspect.
I'm trying to sell my house at the moment, and it's been on the market for about a year. Can you help?
Yes, quite possibly.
No, jokes aside, I'm comparing that to a business. We think, do we need to get a new front door to make it look sexier? Do we need to paint this or do that? Is that the same with business? Do people need to make changes to make it look more presentable and, pretty? Or does a company that's coming in know what it wants and don't really care how it looks to some people? They see an asset. We want that. We're going to go for it.
Buyers across all industries are smart and savvy now, and they do their research.
Yeah.
So look, it's important to have a nice, pretty front door. And it's important not to have, peeling paint on your walls, but everyone will do the searches. So you can't pull the wool over people's eyes anymore. Buyers are sophisticated and they often have teams of professionals who will check on stuff, on doing due diligence. So yes, it's important to look good and sound good, and marketing PR is important, but it's also important to have really strong fundamentals. And there's no point we see this a lot. There's no point entering a process unless you're ready. There's no point having hidden items in the closet, because that will cause problems.
Yeah.
And the worst thing you can do, and you perhaps see it with you in your house, is enter the market and with things that are not right, and you're wasting your time and the buyer's times, and you have a failed transaction at the end. And that's terrible for everyone. It's terrible for the buyer, terrible for the seller, and all the people you've wasted in between.
If you had to choose the worst period you've had to operate through out of all the ones we listed, including the writers and actors strike, because that impacted a lot of companies, and then you've got streaming that's come in, which has been good for the consumer but bad for some parts of the industry. There's illegal streaming, which isn't good for anyone in business. What would you say was the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome in this?
I think COVID was pretty awful.
Yeah.
That was pretty awful. People weren't going out. People were ill. You were dealing with people who were properly ill. Global economy was struggling. That does come to mind as personally, professionally, and globally as a really, really difficult, stressful situation. So I'm glad that's behind us.
But companies managed to continue. They got furloughed, a lot of them. So not many went under. Whereas during the crash in 2008, 2009, lots went under.
Yeah. You're right. There was a lot of help. I mean, I'm not sure the furloughs were global. You're talking more UK.
More UK,
Yeah. Look, yes. Yeah, 8-9s were. I mean, back then I went back into employment over those times, and I don't think it was. I remember running Lazarus Consulting, thinking this is going to be tough. So I ended up taking some senior roles in global tech firms, which were actually on the up at those years. So it was an interesting time to be employed, but. You're right. There were tricky times. There can be tricky times. Often you just have to be careful and don't overstretch yourself. But you're right. 2008-9 was a difficult time for business as well.
And you also advise in the AI and tech space. Do you have a preference? Is media your first love, or do you not really care?
No, I mean, I love it all. I mean, really, we do focus on media. We do focus on tech and adjacent sectors. And where the two collide, that's really interesting. So I love traditional media, but I also love the way where it impacts AI and tech. I think that's really interesting. I mean, AI is disrupting lots and lots of sectors, the same way that the internet did, I don't know, years ago, 10, 20 years ago. So I think it's fascinating. I think it's also quite hard to spot how that disruption is going to pan out. You just have to embrace it, both as a business and also as an advisor. And I think you also have to be careful, that a lot of businesses sort of want to badge their businesses as AI, but with AI, and make it AI proof. But actually, again, coming back to buyers are sophisticated and smart, and therefore, embrace AI, but don't lead with it if you're not an AI business, but use it because it's an incredible. I mean, we all know. I'm not saying anything new. It's an incredibly powerful direction that business is going in with AI, and it's fascinating. And it is, as an advisor, I see lots of businesses. One of the best parts of my job is meeting founders and hearing their story, and then working out whether we can help them or not. AI plays a really important part of that.
Let's talk about AI for a minute, because up until 2 years ago, I'd only heard of ChatGPT. I'm a bit of a late adopter. I don't use it an awful lot purely because it's quite dangerous in journalism, because it picks up facts that aren't true.
Yeah.
But I can see the benefit. It's great for writing headlines and other things. It's great for tidying stuff and structuring paragraphs, etc. But you've now got ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok. Are there others? Must be.
Probably. There are.
Yeah. How do you see the future? Are they all going to survive, or will Elon Musk just buy them all?
He can probably afford it. Look, I think, it's healthy competition. It's so important. It's incredible how fast they're growing. It is something that me and my business have embraced quite early on. It just makes us better, more efficient.
How so? How do you use it on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, it's brilliant for research. For one,
Sorry to interrupt. How do you know it's giving you correct answers, though?
Well, you're absolutely right. You do need to be careful with it.
Yeah.
But I think what it does is it covers so much ground much faster than a human. So documents, document reading, research, global analysis. Of course, it all needs to be very, very carefully checked. But that's just the second layer. That's the human in the loop, right? From my point of view. So yes, but it covers ground. It covers so much ground in seconds. So it's invaluable, but you're absolutely right. In all ways, you do need to double check it, triple check it, but it could just make you move faster. But you're right. Look, it's a complicated sector. You've got to work out how to use it, when to use it. And also you need when I say how to use it, when to use it, you also need to know when you shouldn't use it. It can make you lazy. It can stop you thinking in some ways. It's important to realize that the human brain is equally powerful and should be used as well. You just have to choose your moment. Nothing's changed there. I mean, there were databases that you were using, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's just, it does make you work better and faster, in my view.
It's a bit like Wikipedia. A lot of the time that's inaccurate, isn't it? But when you check it as a human in inverted commas, how do you do that? So you read through the document, and then what sources do you use to verify what you?
All different. I mean, in my world, in the M&A world, you've got databases that you rely on: PitchBook, Crunchbase, online databases, track, and lots. There's a lot of information out there, and free information. And then you've got, we don't just use one AI tool, we use multiple ones. That's the trick as well. You get them to check each other. And then you get them to check yourselves. So, there's lots of checks and balances, but it does, as I said, it does make you move faster. But yes, you can also, and we do use traditional databases as well. And also, I've got a team of researchers that are, heavily rely on it's weird. Yes, we do lots of deals, we do lots of negotiations, but underpinning that, there's a lot of thought, a lot of little steps that we need to take to get to where we want to go to.
Do you ever see a time where you don't have to check it?
No, I mean, it's always good to double check stuff.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm a former lawyer.
No, I get that. What I mean is, do you ever think there will come a time where there is a AI platform that's so clued up that it's always going to churn out the correct answers, or no, because it's pulling stuff from the internet that's obviously not true?
You know what? I can't answer that. I'm not tech qualified enough to answer that. Maybe one day there will be, but who knows?
Ever thought of launching your own platform?
No. I have done. I've launched a platform, which is my company, right? But in terms of, but I work with founders. It's really hard. I compliment founders quite a lot in my meetings with them, and I try. I really mean it. It's really hard to launch a business, to grow it, to get funding, to grow it more with or without funding, and then to navigate through to, let's say, an exit. It takes so much hard work and skill and intelligence and luck. So I'm often, and I come across businesses that I see have succeeded in that. And I always say, I'm really impressed with what you've done. And I really mean it, because it's just, there's so many challenges in business across all sectors. So I'm running my own platform already.
And are you someone who follows the news all the time with mergers and acquisitions? The minute you hear about it, you just, I want to know the fine details of that, or is it completely irrelevant because you just operate the way you operate?
I do. I am a bit of a news junkie generally.
Yeah.
And particularly business news for sure. I'm always following the big deals, and the ones that fail, the ones that succeed. Absolutely. I mean, because we are doing, that's what my business does. We're doing deals all the time, and those larger deals that are commented on in media, you can learn from it. We're doing very similar deals, just on a smaller scale. So absolutely, I follow trends, deals, big movers, brands, other sectors. That's one of the best things about my day job, is I'm learning so much every day, and I love it.
It made me laugh the other day when they were talking about Elon Musk being the first trillionaire. Not because it's a funny story. It's just, someone said to me years ago, anybody who's saying they're the richest person in the world usually isn't, because the richest person in the world doesn't want you to know. It's probably some arms dealer in Brunei or South America or something. Is it true that people like Musk use what's called, is it Lombard loans? I think it's a term called Lombard loan, where they basically put everything against their shares, stocks and shares, and then basically only pay the interest back.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Look, I think a lot of, when you hear about these richest men, a lot of their wealth, men and women, a lot of their wealth are tied up in assets that are not freely liquid. So you've got to find ways, if you want to grow and acquire, which he does clearly, you've got to find ways to support that funding. So it's completely common for any business, whether you're a trillionaire or just a billionaire or even a mere millionaire, to not rely on cash to fund deals. Yeah. It's really common in the world of equity, for sure. So yes, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, you don't want to liquidate all your assets just because you want to acquire another one. It makes a lot of sense to use debt as a tool to grow your asset base.
What sort of debt are we talking about here? Just loans against shares or other types of loans?
Yeah, secured loans.
Simply that, yeah.
Absolutely. You're talking about using assets that you've got. I mean, he's got lots of assets, got lots of shares in businesses.
Yeah.
We're talking about using assets as security to make more acquisitions. And sometimes you can set up your debt to make the acquisition, and then that debt is secured against the asset that you've bought. So there's lots of different ways. That's one of the reasons why you need an M&A advisor for some transactions, because to structure a deal and to strike a deal, there can be lots and lots of different ways. It's really unusual for someone to be sitting on a pile of cash that they use to acquire a business. It's much more common for there to be some kind of secured funding, or it could be a share swap, for instance. So, there's lots of different ways that you can fund a deal. And there's lots of ways when you find a buyer and a seller that the deal can be structured. And I always say this, when I talk to potential clients, it's like, we're on board to really decipher and work out what is the best for you, client, because it's complicated. And, particularly when you have lots of different conditions and terms attached, there might be fees attached. There might be, you've got to stay in the business for 2 years, 3 years, and have an earn out.
Yeah.
Or there might be some good leaver and bad leaver provisions, which means that if you do something wrong, you lose your shares. It can be very complicated. And we're there to guide, as a professional advisor, we're there to guide those sellers, because we mainly act for sellers, making sure that the outcome is A, successful, and B, as they expected.
I bet it gets really messy though if somebody dies, because if you've got these shares and you've got a huge loan against them, and then you sadly pass away, and then your children look to inherit those shares, they can't, can they? Because they belong to the bank. Or have I got that completely wrong? Because
when you've got individuals involved in a business, there is a risk that an individual might pass away. So there are insurances that you can take out, and there is planning that involves protection of assets and businesses in the event that one key person moves on, whether it's whether it's leaving the business or passing away. But that's another thing that buyers look out for, which is that, is that business centered around that one person? Or is there a really strong management team, for instance?
They often are. I mean, look at Warren Buffett. I think he's 95 now. He can't have that many more, or hopefully he does, but I'm guessing he won't live an awful lot longer. I mean, and people buy shares because of him in his company. What do you think will happen there? Do you think whoever takes over will know what to do, or do you think it could get messy?
I'm not familiar with the structure of his business.
Okay.
Obviously, he's a really high profile individual and he's been very smart and done very, very well. I don't know what kind of succession planning he's done, but I'm sure, and I don't know about the team there, so I really can't comment on them.
Fair enough. But it's the same across the board, isn't it? You've got Rupert Murdoch. There are lots of sort of elder statesmen who run these companies who eventually have to pass it on.
You do. And I think he's done it, I mean, obviously him in particular. I mean, I've worked for 2 Murdoch businesses in the past.
Have you?
Yes. Well, I worked for Dow Jones and for MySpace, both part of News Corp.
MySpace, is it still going?
Not sure.
That was the original Facebook, wasn't it? That was huge.
It was. Yeah. So those are the 2 businesses I worked as in doing corporate and business development deals. So look, he's done. He's finally had a good succession planning, and he's got people in charge of his businesses.
Great. Well, this is the bit of the podcast where I let people plug whatever they want to plug. So the mic is yours. What's coming up?
In terms of look. I think you've got me on this podcast because you've seen what we do.
Yeah.
We work with amazing founders, helping them on transactions. Those transactions could be either helping them raise money or helping them realize their assets by selling their businesses. We work across tech, media, and retail. We're a boutique corporate finance house. That's how I label us. And boutique because we don't sign up loads and loads of businesses. We're very particular about which ones we sign up, because we want to successfully deliver on an outcome, over deliver, frankly. And we do really well. We've had lots of successes. We've got an amazing reputation. Delighted to say, we've got an amazing reputation in the marketplace. Lots of happy CEOs, lots of great testimonials. There's some on the website, on the blog page. And we're growing. We're growing in stature. Our successes are growing year on year. We're on a journey still. And it's an incredible, I love my day job. It's not just about delivering, money, revenues. It's also often about helping those whole teams move and stay with the business. And it's a people job as well. We deliver. A lot of our outcomes involve whole teams moving from one place to another with security. So it feels good, and we're doing it right. And I love it. And I'm always in terms of meeting new businesses, really happy to meet new businesses. We'll work with them as long as we feel confident that we can actually help them move to the next level.
Brilliant.
That's my plug.
And the best way to contact you is via the website?
Yeah, we've got a contact form there.
Which is Lazarus Consulting?
Yes, lazarusconsulting.net, absolutely. www.lazarusconsulting.net.
And finally, nice summer holiday planned? Or working like a dog throughout?
When you run your own business, you have to be on call most of the time, I'm afraid. However, yes, some time away with the family for sure.
Actually, go on, give us one story where you've had to take a call at 2-3 in the morning when you were on holiday.
Oh my God. My last summer holiday, we had a client who insisted on us launching, because we launch really deep, thorough processes that can last months. And the client insisted that we was quite adamant that we launch the process as soon as possible. And it happened to be right where I was on my holiday in Greece. So I spent literally 2 days of not a very long holiday locked in a room, just launching a process for our client. And that wasn't 3 in the morning. That was basically all day and all night. So that was a bit unfortunate. But anyway, it happens. And I was delighted to have the client. And anyway, so as I said, you can't quite control everything when you run your own business. But anyway.
Did you charge them extra for that?
No, but I reminded them of it frequently.
Brilliant. Steve Lazarus, thank you very much for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rob.